Okay, so far we've been using methods of the type void. In this lesson, we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to actually use some return methods that have a real return type. So in order to do that, let's just go ahead and create a class, and we'll call this one Ret. Here, I'll get my mouse out of the way. Ret Methods, short for return methods.java. And I'm going to do that, and I'll drag that right into my Notepad++. I'll start right away, public class, and we'll go Ret Methods. And public void main string args. And let's say I wanted to create a class that returns the volume of a cube. And the easiest way to do that is with the return method. So I'll go ahead and, since I know I'm going to use a method here, I'm going to create a new object of the class Ret Methods. And I'm going to call it volcube. And it's going to be a new Ret Methods object. And then I'm going to create an integer, and all you need to calculate the volume of a cube is one measurement of one side. So I will take a measurement, side 1, and let's say that measures out to be 3. So now I need something that's going to calculate my volume from that one side that I have. So I'm going to use a return method for that. So I'm going to say public, and then instead of void this time, I want an integer return. So I'm going to type int, and I'll just call it cube, and it's going to take an integer input and parameters, and I'll just call that side. And inside here, I'm just going to return, and of course, the area of a cube is just one side measurement cubed. So we don't have an exponent function yet, so we're just going to use side by side by side. Now I can go back up into my main method and I can print out my results. And the cool thing about return methods are we don't really have to do anything. We just have to do a printout of the result from this method. And I get the result from that by calling it on the object first. So name of the object, method name. So I'm calling the cube method on the volcube object, and I'll end that sentence. And as a parameter, I'm going to throw in side 1. So if I run that, you can see it gives me back 27. So that is about as simple as it gets for a piece of code like this in an object-oriented way by using methods. Let's say I wanted to do something a little bit more complicated, like calculating an average. So I'll get rid of what I have so far, and I'll actually keep that top line. So I'm going to create a different object. This one I'm going to just call this one average. And in order to take the average, I'm going to need to take in 3 numbers. Well, let's call these, let's call them integers. So int, let's just go n1, and we'll say that's equal to 3. And int n2, I'm going to say equal to 8. Int n3, I'm going to set equal to a big 15, and then I'm going to create a new double, and it's going to be, that's going to equal the final average number that I'm going to get back from my average method. So now I'm going to create a public, and obviously if it's an average, it's probably going to be a double, so I'm going to return I'm going to use a double return type here, and I'm going to say calc average, is going to be my method name. And it's going to take an int1, int2, and int3. And it is simply going to return the average of those three numbers. So it would be 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then I'll divide by 3.0. And to show you why I'm doing 3.0 here, let's just do it with the 3, and I'll show you what ends up happening. So now to simplify things, instead of creating all the results from the print statement, I'm going to use this variable double this double variable to hold my average. So I'll say double average, and it's going to be equal to average, which is my object name, dot method name, which is calc average. And in that, I'm going to put n1, n2, and n3. And just like before, n1, when we call calc average, n1 goes into this 1 variable, n2 goes into 2, and n3 goes into 3. So now we should be able to print out the results. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. System out print line, and I will say your, or we can say the volume of your cube is, and we'll say it's AVG. And let's go ahead and run that. And you can see it says the volume of my cube is 8.0. And I always get 0.0 no matter what happens. And that's because this is returning an integer. Since I have all integers here and I'm dividing by an integer, I'm getting an integer, or I'm getting a double return, but it's actually being calculated from an integer. So I'm going to get 0.0 on everything the whole time. And I don't really want that. So if I do a 3.0 here and I run again, I get the full decimal of it. And I can also run print formatting on it. So I can say percent, let's go 10.2 F, and then instead of plus, I just put the comma for average. Oops, I forgot to change that to a printf. And then just for tidiness, I'll probably put a \n there to make sure it skips a line. So we'll try one more time. And the volume of my cube is 8.67. So I get an accurate decimal-based average. And I can also use a scanner to take inputs for any of these, or get my data from any kind of source that I want, or do other stuff like this. But the point is, I'm taking this method to return a value. So I'm using a return type that's something other than void. Now we use that void type when we don't have a return, but we can do doubles, we can return strings, we can return ints, we can do any kind of data type that we want. We can have a return coming out of here. So that's it for return methods. I think that's a pretty good crash course. So you should have enough to start your lab, so I'll let you go and let me know if you need help.